Hi everyone, welcome back to 33 Founders. I'm very excited you're with us today because I'm here with William King, the founder and CEO of Zephyr Health. Thanks so much for being with me today.
Jenna, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So I really feel what you guys are doing can be the missing link in the health industry. Can we start out with you introducing how you're getting all this data together and empowering companies in the medical industry?
Sure. So at Zephyr, what we look to do is take all of the disconnected data that exists in the healthcare ecosystem, bring it together really efficiently and rapidly in the cloud, and then ultimately help on the R&D side for pharmaceutical companies, and then critically deliver those therapies to market. So bring them to the physicians so that they can ultimately get into the hands of the patients that need them most.
All right, and so I think from the outside, it's really difficult to understand the massive need that you guys are fulfilling. Can you explain the top 3 challenges that your customers are facing and how you're solving them?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest challenges, certainly on the R&D side, I think everyone's heard the statistics that it can be up to $5 billion to research and create a drug, that it can take up to 10 years, and actually I think that the probability of success from start to finish is less than 4%. So it is an enormously risky investment for our customers, and also obviously it takes quite a long time and of course very expensive. So what we're trying to do is connect the fragmented pieces of data on the R&D side, and then really critically not just connect the data, but then visualize it in a way that allows people to interpret and make really good decisions very quickly. And that's one piece of the pie. The second piece is in how those therapies get to market. And I think actually a good sort of consumer statistic that works for us is on average, a patient, it takes 3 visits to the physician to find the right doctor. And actually a pharmaceutical company and patients are not too dissimilar. All of us are trying to find the right physician. And so how can we improve getting to the right physician as quickly as possible? And again, that comes down to data. So how can we take all of these disconnected pieces of data and bring them together and visualize them in a way that allows people to take action really easily?
Great. So I want to shift gears for just a couple minutes and talk about 2 recent announcements that you guys made at Zephyr. First, let's talk about Voyager, because I think the technology and the seamless integration of that is really spectacular. Tell us about your mobile app.
Well, thank you. Yeah. We're really excited about Voyager. One of the challenges that we have, I think all of us have, and whether we're in healthcare or even in other industries, is when we discover an important insight, how do we then communicate that? And so that's one of the challenges. But then the other challenge is once we've communicated that, how do we take action against that and then capture those learnings? And I think what we have today, and certainly with our customers, oftentimes an insight will be captured. They'll then communicate that via email. It'll be oftentimes in the form of a PDF or a PowerPoint or an Excel file. The person that receives it obviously has to open up their email. They then have to look at the insight, then whatever changes that they make or action that they take, they'll probably have to craft another email in response, and really just a lot of opportunities to get disconnected. So what we've done is really link the browser environment that we have with the mobile devices that we're all carrying around, and allow people to generate the insight and then with one swipe share that to the constituent that needs to take action against that, and then they then can take the action, record whatever insights that they've gathered, and then that gets shipped back up to the cloud environment.
Yeah, I can't get over the real-time communication that you guys have created for these companies. Just reading about it, I was getting so excited.
Yeah, it's cool. One of the things that we're really trying to do is move toward instrumentation of the business in, just as you say, real time. And the thing that's really neat about that is that not only does it allow us to make real-time business decisions today, but in the future, it allows us to start to think about predictive analytics. And that's one of the things that we're also working on. How can we anticipate, based on what we're seeing happen today, how can we anticipate what might be coming in the future?
Even that's getting me so excited. Are you guys working on anything with the predictive, or is it a little bit early?
No, we're definitely working on it. Absolutely. A really good example would be one of our customers, a really big pharmaceutical company in Southern California, has a new therapy. It's a new mechanism of delivery, and they're trying to understand who would be a candidate for this new therapy. And there are some considerations in terms of it has to be kept at very cold temperatures and the way that it's administered to patients. And so it really became an exercise of back to the patients, how do we find the right doctor? How do we find the right people who are likely to adopt this? And so based on a ton of historical information, we were able to crunch the numbers and put forward who we think the likely early adopters would be for this particular therapy. And it was super effective, I have to say. In the top 10 hospitals that we said, these are really the most likely, number 4 they weren't even aware of. They didn't even know. It wasn't on their radar.
Wow.
Yeah, so we showed them that, and then they went to the hospital, obviously, and chatted with them, and they're obviously super keen. They said that this is really interesting. So that predictive side of things is definitely something that we're working on, and like you, we're really excited about it.
Very cool. And so I now want to talk about you guys joining Veeva's Open Key Partner Program.
Yeah.
What was that decision like for you guys, and how do you feel it's going to accelerate your work with them and the companies that you both work with together?
I think Zephyr's philosophy is really to be inclusive. And I think the way we think about our business is it's not a zero-sum game. We don't win at somebody else's expense. What we try and do is really take all of the different pieces of the infrastructure that exist and figure out a way to work with that infrastructure and hopefully make everybody more efficient. And Veeva is a great example of an extremely successful company. As you say, we work with the same customers. And what they're providing from an open key standpoint and from a CRM, customer relationship management standpoint, really complements the data that we come with out of the box and the analytics that we put on top of them. So we see this as a huge synergy between the two organizations. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's all about the customers and the efficiencies that they gain so we can get these therapies to market and to the patients.
Great. So I want to shift gears for a couple seconds, William, and now talk about your decision to bootstrap Zephyr. A lot of the early days for you guys were really rooted in that lean startup methodology of let's go out and experiment and see what happens. What was that experience like?
It was great. I mean, I think you write a business plan and you sort of put all your best intentions behind this is what we're going to do. And then as the saying goes,
go the other way.
well, as the saying goes, your customers tell you what you are. I think for me, that has been the most important part of the experience. There's I think it's Jim Collins as the author. I think in one of his latest books, he talks about this notion of fire bullets, then cannonballs, which means, it's the sort of try a lot of different things and see what's working. And then when you find something that's really working, that's where you make the larger investment. Don't try and invest in everything, one thing all up front without the lessons, without the learnings. So bootstrapping was a really good opportunity for us to work hand in glove with our customers. Of course, we still do today, but it really helped to shape the product that we went to market with and critically identify what's the most pressing need, where's the gap, and how do we solve that in a way that is not only efficient, but hopefully really elegant as well. And so that has been critical as we've continued to build the company.
What are a couple of the ideas that you were introducing to them that have remained with you guys today or that you've iterated on?
Easy. That's the most important thing. I think one of the challenges that, so let me back up for a second. We're talking about health data, healthcare data, and we're talking about analytics. And those can be pretty heady topics, data and analytics, and obviously the amount that exists in healthcare is just astonishing, and by the way, growing like crazy. So what our customers have told us is, we don't need more data. We don't want to be sold more data. And from an analytical perspective, the statistics and all of the kind of heady components that go into it are interesting, but what we really want is the answer. And what we really want is to be able to interact with the data and interact with the information in a way that we feel empowered and we feel confident. And so those are, I would say, above and beyond anything else, that's probably the most important thing that we've learned is data is important and how the analytics come together is important, but the presentation layer and the simplicity of that is absolutely critical.
So when your customers come and they tell you that, as a team at Zephyr, how do you have a responsive culture to act on it quickly and not, like you said before, say, oh, no, we have this business model, let's stick with that?
Well, you have to be nimble. I mean, I think that's true in life in general. I mean, think about how much the technology world has changed in the last 10 years. And how old is the iPhone, right? I mean, think about how much that's just changed our lives in the short period of time that that's been around. So I really think that being nimble is really important. And I have to say, not just for a company of our size, but even for really large companies. And I think we're seeing this trend. Really, really large companies are trying to think about how can we behave more like a startup from the standpoint of being agile and responding to what customers are saying.
What's one thing I really enjoyed reading about it? I was doing my research. You were at Johnson & Johnson for a while, and one of the things that you really admired about how they ran the corporation is the sustainability in their culture. How have you brought that to Zephyr?
Well, I really appreciate that question, because what we're trying to do here truly is build a company. And there's a distinction there. I think that it's not about the product. The product is important, and that's an important part of our offering. But just to your point, it's about the company. And coming back to the being agile in the company and responsive to customer needs, what we're trying to do is address a problem that we think is an enormous problem. Data in healthcare. I mean,
it's pretty big.
Yeah, it's something I think affects everybody around the world. So we really do take a long-term approach to that. And just to your point, I think one of the things that Johnson & Johnson really helped to instill was this notion of thinking for the long term and ensuring that the company can be around and make investments and bring on the right folks and respond in the right ways to really satisfy the customers in the most meaningful way possible.
When you think for the long term and you kind of go back to those bootstrapping days, while you had a lot of success early on, there's always challenges. For example, your daughter was born on a Saturday, and on Monday you guys were shifting your products. So it's a lot of sacrifice. How do you keep the long-term vision and stay excited about things?
Well, I think somebody said something to me which it really resonated with me. They said the phrase that they used was long days, short years. And I thought that was kind of interesting, that sometimes there's a lot of stuff that happens throughout the day and you got a lot going on, but the next thing you know, a quarter's gone by or a half a year or a year has gone by. What we really try and do is focus on what counts today. And of course, we would love to be able to predict the future, but listening to your customers today and understanding where the pain points are and really being laser focused on finding a solution for those, and again, coming back to my comments about an elegant presentation, staying focused about how we're solving problems today, we think that that's really important as we continue to build for the long term.
As you were solving problems a few years ago and today, when you were bootstrapping in a previous interview, you said it really teaches you that every dollar matters.
For sure.
How have you maintained that mentality now that you do have funding?
I think actually I learned that every dollar matters, frankly, even at J&J. Mm-hmm. I think Johnson & Johnson is a good example of a $60 billion in revenue company. There's a lot. Yeah, not bad. They throw off a little bit of free cash flow. But the company is disciplined. It's a highly disciplined company. And you have to make good cases for why you want to spend money in one area versus another. And whether you're a huge company like J&J or you're a small company like Zephyr, it's all about trade-offs, and it's all about identifying that you have to make trade-offs. For me, I think bootstrapping is an excellent way to really live that as acutely, I think, as possible. But it's sort of, whether you're bootstrapped or funded or, like I said, a huge company like J&J, I think it's more about the mindset that you bring to the table and the values that you have more than what's necessarily in the checking account at any given time.
When you did decide to raise venture capital money, what motivated you to do that? Because you guys were cash flow positive at the time, right?
Correct. Yeah, we ran a profitable company for the first couple of years. A couple things. I think one of the things that we saw was that there was a big market demand, and our ability to satisfy the market wasn't going as fast as the market was telling us we needed to go. And so, for example, going back to trade-offs, if you have $1 to invest, does it go into sales and marketing? Does it go into engineering? Does it go into customer support or success? The market was telling us that they wanted more from us, and we were having a hard time keeping pace and trying to get ahead of that. That was one thing. But the second thing is, building a company is all about people. I mean, technology is great, don't get me wrong, but it's all about the people that are advancing the cause and the mission. And so we felt really lucky that as a part of the fundraising process, we really could spend time thinking about the people and thinking about who would join our effort. And that was a really key consideration. And I have to say, with Joe Horowitz and Brooke Byers, we've got tremendous people at the table, and they've been super, super helpful in helping us to continue to build the company.
What are some insights that they've imparted to you the last year that's really helped you?
Well, I think just how to think about growth. I think, perhaps one of my personal philosophies going back to the bootstraps days is, maybe sort of in a more linear sense in terms of how we would make investments. And I think what those guys have talked about is the benefit of perhaps expanding that aperture and sort of use the analogy of planting seeds a little bit earlier so that we can see them grow and the benefits of those sooner. These guys have a lot of experience in building great companies, and so they know where to make bets and when to make bets, and based on some of the pattern matching that they've seen historically.
Great. So I want to shift gears now and talk about your customer base. I was really interested in learning. I'd never really thought about this. You know, with a consumer product, you have millions and tens of millions of people using it. You guys aren't going to have that many customers. In fact, your goal is to have 25 large, 50 medium, and 150 small. Tell me about the process then for you of acquiring a customer, because this isn't something that you can put like a Facebook ad up for.
No.
Yeah.
It's about value. I mean, I think the best part for me as an entrepreneur, the best part of my job is creating value, solving someone's problem, and creating value, doing so in a way that whatever they have to put in, what they get out of it far exceeds what they put in. And so that's the process that we use in acquiring customers. We talk about their pain. And the good news is we're laser focused as a company. I mean, Zephyr Health, we could be thinking about data, especially in analytics. There's a zillion different ways that we could go. But we've been really targeted in thinking about how we can help health sciences companies. And I think that helps us in the selling process. I think we can walk in and have a very real conversation about, is this a real pain? Because this is what we've heard from other companies, and this is what we've experienced in our own careers. And I think that really helps to accelerate how we move to onboarding a customer and critically solving problems.
Once you get in there, what have you learned about pitching from the early days of just saying, hey, this is what we're thinking about doing, to now when you're signing on really big clients?
Well, I think, first of all, the message evolves, right? I think that
Here's a prototype.
Right, exactly. I mean, I think the prototype solves, this much, and then the next version solves that much, and the next thing you've got this many use cases, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So I think the messaging definitely evolves. And I think probably the most critical thing, though, is continuing to understand all of the motivations from different people. Right, a big pharma, our customers tend to be very, very large companies with lots of different departments and lots of different stakeholders. And so I think in the early days, we would go in and target one person and one person's pain, and that's where we would try and really focus. And I think what we've been able to do now is look broadly across all of the different constituents and really ensure that as we go into the discussions that we're touching on all of the different stakeholders in a meaningful way.
When you look ahead, let's say we're sitting here and it's 2018. You guys have been tremendously successful so far, but I'm giving you a magic genie wish, and you can write the headline for some news coming out about Zephyr in 2018. What do you want that headline to be?
I'd like it to be something around how data and the processing of data and the connecting of data has improved the health environment in a very dramatic way. And whether or not that's on the drug discovery side of things with our customers, whether that's on how the drugs make it to market, or most importantly, whether it's about how patients get access to therapy earlier and more efficiently, that's what I would like to see. I genuinely believe that what we're doing from a data standpoint and an analytics standpoint in healthcare, as we talked about before, I think there's so many people that can benefit from that.
How can people learn more about what you're doing? And even if you're not involved in the medical or the health industry, what can they do to support this and move it forward to help you guys at Zephyr?
Well, one of the things that's really neat about Zephyr Health is that we're at the intersection of technology and healthcare. Mm-hmm. And so people can do so much. I mean, people are doing so much. I'm sitting here in San Francisco, and all around us are tech companies that are working on, whether, in fact, our neighbors over there are working on a new database and how they store data, processing of data, how it streams, how it can be collected. Analytics is a huge space. So I don't think you have to necessarily be in healthcare, or you have to be serving health sciences companies in the way that we do to participate. I think it's all of the different technology advancements are definitely helping to advance what we're trying to achieve.
So let's say that the health aspect of the Apple Watch really hits it big. Is that another way that you guys would be taking that data and giving it to other companies?
Well, the thing about the Apple Watch is it's all about the individual, right? Mm-hmm. we're not going to go scrape individual data and provide that back to anybody. That's not what we do. What I think the Apple Watch has the ability to do is play a really important part in the data collection ecosystem. Now, I don't know what that will look like in the future. I don't know if that means that, for example, in a clinical trial, if you're participating in a clinical trial, that on your Apple Watch, you'll have a clinical trial app, and that will help improve, perhaps even bringing the patient to the trial, let alone all of the activities around data collection. I'm not sure exactly what that looks like, but I will say this. The way we philosophically approach data is to be structure and source agnostic. I think an IBM statistic was that 90% of the world's data was created in the past 2 years. And
wow.
that is expected to be obsolete in 24 months because of the rate of data change. So our perspective is, let's not necessarily try and predict where that data is going to come from, whether it's an Apple Watch or some other wearable technology. Let's just be open to how the ecosystem evolves, and let's make sure critically we can deal with that data. We can process it and then put it in context with all the other information.
I love that. So you guys are really in an amazing position then, because all the data coming in can actually really empower and help you.
Yeah. I mean, and I'll say one more thing about that. The other thing that we do is we sort of curate the data. Mm-hmm. Because in this big data environment that we live in, I think oftentimes people associate the volume of data with the value, right? The more data I have, the better I must be. But that's not necessarily true. There's a notion of hot and cold data. What data counts? What data counts at what point in time? And that's a big part of what we are looking for. So exactly to your point, we want to take it all in, but then what we want to do is curate it a little bit so we can serve it up in a meaningful way.
That's getting me really excited. So if we're going to end on that point, can you let us know how everyone can stay up to date with Zephyr?
Yeah, for sure. For sure, on our website, we definitely keep people up to date, zephyrhealth.com. We're on Twitter as well, so please come and follow us on Twitter. We also, our team is really good, our marketing team, about press releases and things like that, so we try and be very proactive. But we want to hear from you, so please, we definitely, whether it's on LinkedIn or Twitter or on our website, we definitely want to hear from folks out there, and we're excited. We're excited about what we're doing.
I'm excited.
I think a lot of people, like we said before, I think a lot of people are contributing, even if they're not directly working here at the company. And at the end of the day, better health for the whole world, I think that's a lot of people's shared objective, so we're happy to be participating.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being with me today, William.
Yeah, thanks so much. I really enjoyed it.